Pretty sure a cat just took a shit over here. It stinks. Oh.
Maybe it's just your opinions. Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while since we posted a video. It's me, Grundy, here with Jay.
What's up?
So, I know it's been a week since the last upload. We're sorry about that. We've been having some technical issues, but we got all our stuff together. Go join the Discord for the love of God. All right, so today we're going to have a little chat. I got some questions I wanted to ask my best friend down in the bottom right. What his answers would be to these. I think some of these I already know the answers, but in the name of being good faith, I really just want like clarity, and I just want to know what he thinks because
You want to give me the chance to explain it for myself?
I want to give you the most charitable way of explaining all these things to me.
Okay.
So
Okay.
first question, okay,
Yeah.
and okay, I'll probably agree with you. But is it racist to prefer to date inside your own race?
The short version of it is I'd say yes, but that's just because everybody has I think innately is set as tribalism and in-group preference are like a normal thing. It's the most normal thing in the world to like infant babies when exposed to somebody who's clearly not part of the group, like their family group, when they can tell that someone is very like being exposed to a different race. They have a fear reaction. They cry and they get scared. The infant babies. This is before they've been cultured. This is before they're exposed to society and any type of societal constructs. This is really just a visceral reaction that they have. And I think that the short answer is yes, it is, but that's just because all of us are racist to an extent. I think where racism becomes a problem is when you're unwilling to engage with someone based on the content of their own character. So if you're going to prejudge someone based on your past experiences with members of their group, and you're unwilling them to give them a shot and to deal with them as an individual, that's where it kind of becomes a problem within the context of our multicultural society that we have.
Okay,
But
well, I for the most part agree with pretty much all of that. I can't say 100% because there might be something nuanced that I missed, but I everything that I understood you two have said, I agree with. I don't think it's necessarily racist. I think if someone is a racist, that racism will inform their dating choices. But I don't think it's necessarily racist to, want your kids to look like you or anything.
keep in mind,
Like
keep this in mind, right? Sorry, go ahead, finish your point.
no, to have your kids want your kids to look like you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
and
There's a couple of
unfortunately
points I wanna write
one of
this
those
down.
characteristics is going to be a shade. Like
Well,
uh,
I mean, yeah, and just for me, and this isn't the result of like some ideological this isn't the result of like an ideological position or anything like that, but like I just happen to have always had preference for blue eyes and blonde hair, which are traits that are more commonly found. They're more characteristic of white women, and yeah, I mean, there's all. I mean, culture is also, it's not just skin deep. It's not like people say, oh, it's just about the skin color. It's not just about that. I mean, there are there are other genetic factors, predispositions to certain type of behavior. Again, that's not to say that you should base, you shouldn't prejudge everyone based on those things. But
sounds like
I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting to with being selective about your partner. I mean, choosing the person you want to commit yourself to for the rest of your life is something that requires a large degree of discrimination. It's the most discriminatory thing that we can do. We are literally discriminating everybody else except for the one person that we're choosing, right? So it's like that discrimination in that context isn't.
it's not necessarily
like
unfair discrimination, as
No.
Jordan Peterson would put it. It's there are fair discrimination and unfair discrimination. Say for instance, you have three people show up for a job. One guy has experience, two don't. You're going to pick the guy that has experience because
Exactly, yeah.
you're
I agree with
discriminating against the two because they have no experience.
Exactly. They're going to be. I mean, in the
But-
context
but-
of a job hunt, you're going to be looking for the most qualified candidate. That means you're disqualifying everybody who is not as qualified.
Yeah, but by that same token, you also don't want to just disqualify people, for racist reasons either. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
You know,
well, that's it. Like,
Anyway, okay, so that we're gonna stay on dating, okay? Because that's the important thing that I want to talk about today. It's just
a
like
few points that I wanted to
race
make.
race and dating, okay?
Right.
Now, I want to ask you a personal question, okay? And
Hmm.
this one, sorry if I put you on the spot, but you seemed okay with answering everything on camera. So,
Yeah.
would you personally date a girl outside of your race if you found her attractive?
I mean, it would be a consideration, but I mean, I'm like my preferences. I mean, for me, and it's like not like I hate to sound like shallow or anything like that, but I mean, for me, physical beauty, being attracted to somebody, and what I find attractive and what you find attractive are clearly different things, but like being attracted to somebody is very important for me. I grew up being obese, and I was picked on viciously as a child, and so like I was always self-conscious about my appearance, and like it's the importance of beauty is something that like it was cooked into my fucking brain at a very young age, and again, what's beautiful to me, I mean, it's a subjective thing, right? But I mean, there are traditionally, like, someone, an insect. This is fuck you, get out of here. um Traditional, what there are traditionally beautiful characteristics, symmetry, certain, and especially traits that are exceptional, that are rare, like those tend to be, outliers. Those outliers story tend to be desirable. um I mean, like within a certain context, things that are exceptional, things that are hard to acquire, things that you have to be lucky to acquire, things that you have to work towards, a beautiful body, that type of stuff. More often than not, will be a good thing. There are exceptional, like, overweight people who, like the most, the fattest woman in the world. A lot of people aren't going to find that attractive, despite how exceptional that is. So I want to make that distinction.
Mm-hmm.
But would I date a woman outside of my? I mean, it would be a consideration. For me, really, like, cultivating a long-term relationship, cultivating, like, again, because I'm looking for something, uh, committed, because I know the type of relationship that you can develop, the type of experience that you can have with someone when it's a committed relationship versus, just someone that you're dating that's not exclusive. You're never going to cultivate the same type of meaningful, um, fulfilling relationship that you can. You'll never have quite the same experience of it when there is a lot on the line,
That's
when
fair.
when it's committed, and when you have skin in the game, when it's something that you are afraid to lose. That it's, the good and bad, like the as much as you love that person, the risk of losing them represents a huge fear. And so it's like it's this delicate balance thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all that to say, I mean, it is super important for me to have, to be able to have a meaningful connection with somebody, a conscious connection. I had that once in my life, and it really characterized what I want to find again. And it's like, at the same time, I need to be physically attracted to somebody. And speaking generally, it's going to be less likely for me to find someone who is from a very different genetic or ethnic, racial group, whatever, that I'm going to find them as attractive as I would find, as like it'll be harder for me to find those outliers, and they'll likely be, it'll likely be a much higher degree of competition in order to gain their attention and to get a chance with them, because they're probably going to be exceptionally, like, really beautiful. And anyway, yeah, I would consider it. It would have to involve, multiple layers of attractiveness, beyond just the physical. But I tend to, like, I do want to have kids that look like me. I do, and it's like, uh, that is something that is a limiting factor. So that would make it harder for me to find that type of relationship where I'd be like, what, I love this person so much, and I just want to make babies with that person. Because again, right now I've got there's no particular individual in mind. It's a list of things, of imaginary things in my mind that I'm trying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, these are things that I like, you know what I mean? So until I find that actual person in real life, it's not going to be as easy to
Now,
to deal with that hypothetical.
now, I mean, you know my stance. I personally, like, I date whoever I find attractive, right? I don't give a shit if she's Asian or black or whatever. If I find her attractive, I'll date her. I don't care.
But she's 13, Greg.
If she's 13, then I'll send her to you.
Okay, not
I'll
funny,
tell I'll
not
tell her
funny.
wait 4 years, start a Tinder, and Justin will swipe right on her.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ, that's awful. I
Yeah.
fucking I made a joke and you went fucking a little far
I
with
went
it.
deep. Yeah. But
Just,
yeah.
just for the record, there's no chance in hell
But
that I would
yeah, you
ever
threw me
date
right
anyone
off.
that.
You threw my whole point off too. I forgot exactly where I was going to. Uh,
You know, your whole philosophy is that you'll date anyone that you find attractive, is what you said.
yeah, I'll date anyone I find attractive. Like
But
I like. But okay, so
you're not talking about physical attraction only, right? You're talking
no,
about
there's
their
some. I've
personality.
met women that I wasn't physically attracted to as soon as I met them, but after spending time with them, like you're like, oh my god,
Yeah,
someone's like, she's amazing.
yeah,
Oh fuck,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And you whatever.
Right.
You overlook everything else because she's just that awesome. You know. I was born in a major city. I moved to the suburbs of that major city, and I went to school in those suburbs and in the major city. So like my entire life has been centered around a major city.
Right.
Justin, on the other hand, grew up in the boonies, the
Yeah.
boons, the sticks. He is a hillbilly, as they're called, a country
I
folk.
mean, it's not that. It's like
Yeah.
it's not like that boonies. We're not talking about the
No. We're
Appalachian
not talking.
Trail.
He's not in Louisiana or anything. But he does live
No
like.
offense to people who live in Kentucky.
Yeah, he's not fucking hunting gators for dinner or
But,
anything. Moose, only
um,
moose.
I love moose. I like
Moose
to
is delicious. Fucking
eat moose.
yeah.
But
But do you
but
no?
yeah.
But
So
do you think the fact that we grew up in very different places, like keep it for me when I went to kindergarten, my kindergarten was like everybody was there, right? All
yeah. But
everybody
see, this is
like
this is going to my point about, like I was saying earlier, there's a level of innate in-group preference that's always going to be present. And so,
but when you're sorry.
speaking generally, I would make the argument that in a more homogenous demographic, in a city where if you're growing up in a town or a city where, like, you have more of a connection, like, 1 or 2 degrees removed, everybody there. But there's going to be a higher element of trust. There's going to be more trust among you, and there's going to be more weight to your bad decisions, and you're going to be exposed to a lot less bad stuff. So it's just like, it's a multi-layered thing where, like, you're going to be exposed to bad stuff. People are not going to be afraid to hide the bad stuff because they don't care they don't know you, and they don't care if happen to know somebody. Like, there's not as much risk involved in making bad decisions. So there's it's multi-layered, but it really tends to accelerate when you end up in a really big city. Even if it is homogenous, because of the population density, things are going to be a lot more impersonal. There's going to be a lot less courtesy for one another, speaking generally. I mean, you talk about, New
But the
York.
fact that I'm from, like I said, I was born in the city, and
Yeah.
whereas you lived, as far as I know, out where you live now, pretty much, or around it, right? Your entire
Yeah.
life. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And, like, it's
So
it is considerably more, like, it's more diverse now than it was before.
Well, yeah,
But
of
I
course.
mean,
We're talking, we're talking
well, I
about
mean,
the
I grew up an hour.
1980s, right? We're talking about the 1980s. But do
90s,
you
like
think?
90s when I grew up, when I was actually a human being. Like, I was like, I
but
was a baby, like,
as a child, okay, having been in a preschool and a kindergarten with a wider variety of different, ethnicities, okay,
yeah.
don't you think that had some effect on what I can consider in my head perceivably to be my in group? Like, for
Absolutely.
instance, like I'm the only white person in my workplace, okay? But as far as my workplace goes, those people are my in group. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, but that's it. You're building a relationship with them. Like, if they happen to be from the same town as you, looked the same as you did, they were all gingers, you would have a lot more that you would be naturally drawn to them and be like, there's, and then you happen to like the same stuff also. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing, in spite of the genetic or cultural differences between you, you are brought together by something, and there's always that ability, there's always that potential there for people to connect on ideas. And I think that's what it really means to be a human. We're more than just animals. We're more than just the impulses. We can connect with people consciously. We have self-awareness. We have awareness of our self-awareness, and we have awareness of the self-awareness of others around us, right? So that's really what distinguishes us from, the animals that are operating just on mechanical, like, biological impulses. You know what I mean? So So there always is that potential. I think that's what we should really strive to do, is to connect with other people, like to find meaning in the things that we agree on, the things that we want, that we have in common, the things that we like, the things of the points of interest that we share. So I think that's a very human thing. But I think that we do have a foot in our animal, like in our what's the word, corporeal, whatever,
Mm.
like we are still animals to an extent, and there are still things there that are going to weigh on us. There are still impulses that we're fighting uphill to counteract when we're trying to connect with people who are coming from a very different place than us. So you can build that type of connection with people, despite having these differences, which would otherwise take away all those points of interest, and it's harder for you to connect with them
Mm.
because they look different. And I think that's just something that is
See,
innate
so
within us.
have you ever at any point expressed the idea that people of different races should not have children?
No,
No. Okay.
no,
Can
no.
you?
I think like
Okay.
no.
So,
I think that's horrible, and I think that's something that
all right.
is often aimed at white people today. But
All
I
right.
think
Do
that
you? Do you?
the health of a species is we need to proliferate in order for us to be considered healthy. I mean, we're a biological organism at the end of the day, and a big part of being healthy is being able to proliferate and being able to maintain your population. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Do you recall perhaps a prior conversation that we may have had where I may have confused what you were saying with you expressing the idea that
I'm
people of
not
different
sure.
races should not date?
Are you talking about mixed racing? Mixed
Yeah,
race
right,
couples?
yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
all
Well,
right, can
no.
you
Oh,
do you remember a conversation where I might have misunderstood something you said for that? And can you
mm,
explain that to me?
no, no, no. Tell me. Well, fill in the blanks in the conversation here, because I
Okay,
don't.
well,
I don't
that's
remember
the thing.
exactly.
That's the thing, because it's kind of like been my assumption based on prior conversations we've had on other topics, and I wanted to get some clarification on that.
So
But I'm
again,
happy with the answer I received because
well, I mean, the this is going back to what I was saying. I don't know if this was on recording or not, but leading up to this, anyway, then this ties into the point that I wanted to make, is um, that I think if you appreciate the diversity of human life and cultures, and like how rich and different they all are, all that's being accomplished by programming into through our media the importance of or and that's the thing too, is a lot of it I think is fetishization of exotic, like whatever is exotic. It's like, oh, an exotic, someone who's different, and like, oh, let's make babies with that person. And it's just like
that
all of our commercials, it does feel like manipulation. It feels like programming. It feels very distinctly like there's an overrepresentation of this type of stuff in our media, where it's like every goddamn commercial has a mixed race couple. Every commercial has a lesbian or gay couple, has a transgender now, and it's like way, way, way overrepresented from what you would see in the normal population. And so all you're going to serve by programming our youth to the idea that we should be seeking to have children with other races, rather than trying to maintain our own. And like, I don't want to go into like a crazy, this has nothing to do with supremacy at all. I don't want anyone to even be able to take this out of context. It's not about any one race being superior to another. There's none of that. But
you're fine. If we don't want to put this up, we just don't put this up. That's fine. You tell
no,
me
no,
when
no.
to
I
close.
no, I want to provide the full
Yeah, yeah.
context. I don't want this to be all chopped up and whatever. I want to be able to provide the full context. But I think that all you're serving to do is destroy diversity. If we're all being, if every generation is being blended together. I mean, I made a reference before to the episode of South Park way back, which would be totally racist today, is the Goobak episode, where like it was basically like they were making a joke about how like so many non-English speaking It was basically about Latinos, moving into the southern states, and it was like now these were time travelers. Rather than coming from a different country, they're
Yeah.
coming from a different time because their time, like they wanted the abundance of this time period, which is it's analogous of wanting to come to a country that's got a safe
A better
and
system. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
safe and healthy system where there's an element of trust and opportunity for upward mobility. So all you're going to serve to do is to erode, like you're going to erode the diversity that actually exists. So like people that are there's often, and I don't have studies to cite specifically on this, but I know I've read it, that there are higher instances of identity crises in children from mixed race couple, like mixed race children, higher instances of violence, of it's just like it's more of a, they face more crises with their identity, and identity is a big fucking topic today. People really struggle with this idea of who they are and how they should identify and all this stuff, and it's something that is really um, that is it's exacerbated, like it's exacerbating the issues that already would naturally exist when someone has two different cultures. So I mean, like a few generations down the line, what could be the preservation of these cultural values, the food and this and that, it's like you're going to lose some things along the way, you're going to lose some of that identity along the way. And if you really do appreciate the diversity of the culture and the cuisine and the languages and like all of this stuff, I mean, all you're going to do is we're going to accelerate the rate at which we're all going to become the same shade of brown, and we're all going to speak the same language. We're really doing a disservice to what is real diversity when we're turning the cultural mosaic into a cultural melting pot. That's my belief.
Okay, so I have two more questions. All right.